And the reason why this is happening, it's no other reason. I'm not going to entertain any other excuse for it. This is all because of legalized bribery and the military-industrial complex. So I'm not going to get too into it, but a brief explanation of what the military-industrial complex is. And when you bring it up, it sounds conspiratorial and it sounds like some Alex Jones shit, like, oh, the military-industrial complex, they're putting some chemicals in the water and they turn all the frogs gay or some, and the female helicopters, they're gonna put you in the black helicopters, they're gonna put you in the concentration camps, and you're never gonna see your family again. Like, it sounds like some insane, absurd Alex Jones conspiracy shit, but this has been basically a staple in American politics for decades now. And Eisenhower, on his way out of office, who was a general and become president, he warned that this was going to be a problem, and since then it has blown way out of proportion past what I'm even sure he was worried about. And the way it works is, it's basically, there are a small group of people who make a shit ton of money whenever there's war. These groups include the defense contractors, so people who make the equipment to go to war, like the tanks, the people who make the guns, the people who make the missiles, the people who make the bombs and the jets and in the armor and all of that shit. Those corporations are classified as defense contractors. And in the United States, some of the major ones are like Honeywell, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, just to name a few. And they all specialize in their own area of war and bombing shit. So, and as they're part of the military-industrial complex, the defense contractors, the people who make the materials that they use. So the people like steel manufacturers and these other metal manufacturers, they're part of it too. The banks that give them loans and finance these operations, you could say that they're part of it because they also make a shit ton of money whenever we go to war. The oil companies that profit whenever we go into countries like Iraq and Afghanistan, and we literally raid them for their oil. The oil companies like Exxon and BP and whatever. I don't know why I'm blanking on the energy companies right now, but they're part of the military-industrial complex. So the one side of it is the corporations, the private corporations who make billions and billions of dollars off of war. And then the other side of it is the politicians who sanction the wars and give them the contracts to make these weapons. Because a lot of these corporations could not exist if the government wasn't giving them contracts to make tanks or make guns or to make bombs or to make missiles or aircrafts or whatever it is that they're making, or submarines. They would not exist if the government was not giving them contracts to make these $1 billion and $1 million contracts to make these weapons. So the way it works is the defense contractors, the corporations, they give these politicians millions and millions, and I'm sure when you add it up from the last couple of decades, it goes way past billions of dollars in like campaign contributions and these fundraisers and lobbying. So like taking them out on these fancy dinners and to these vacations and these retreats and shit like that. They spend hundreds of millions or if not billions of dollars to wine and dine these politicians. And now these politicians have a financial incentive to keep these people in business. Because if Lockheed Martin is making a whole bunch of money from contracts to build these F-35s, Lockheed Martin is going to give Paul Ryan, is going to give Mitch McConnell, is going to give these other politicians money for their campaigns. And one of the major issues in the United States is the legalized bribery, the campaign donations, the private money in politics. So the entire system is based off of money in politics. It's based off of private donations. So when you have these corporations profit off of war, giving you millions of dollars, you have an incentive to keep the war going so that you could keep getting these campaign donations. And like I mentioned before in this show, 95% of the time, the people who raise the most money win their election. Doesn't matter about the issue, doesn't matter if people like you. If you can buy the most TV ads or the most radio ads or internet ads or billboards or whatever it is to get your name out there, 95% of the time you're going to win the election. So they have this incentive to keep these people in business so they can keep getting their campaign donations so that they can remain in power and keep winning elections. And to prove my point, let's see how much this one company, Lockheed Martin, the one that gets the trillions of dollars for this ridiculous F-35 fighter jet program, let's see how much they spent in 2017 and 2018. They have spent in the 2018 midterms, they've spent $3.5 million on political contributions to both parties. And that's the thing, both parties, the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, take money from these corporations. So that's why they're both basically warmongers and warhawks in both parties. Because they take money from these defense contractors, and like I've already explained how this whole shindig goes down. So $3.5 million in political contributions. So this is direct contributions to political campaigns since 2017 and in 2018, all for the midterm elections that are going to happen in November. In 2017 to 2018, they have spent, watch this, $20 million in lobbying. $20 million in lobbying just from one corporation, Lockheed Martin, to politicians in both parties. So that's where a lot of the money's going to. And you can see that in just this small time frame of 2017 to 2018, they've already spent almost $25 million in what is essentially legalized bribes to these politicians. And it sounds like a lot of money to the average person, but what this really is a smart investment, because for the money that they're getting in these no-bid contracts, like for this one and Lockheed Martin has a bunch of government contracts, but the contracts that they just get for the F-35 fighter jet alone, I already mentioned they've gotten over $2 trillion in taxpayer money to finance this program. So throwing $25 million into an election cycle, that's not shit. That's pocket change for Lockheed Martin. And what they get out of it are trillions and trillions of dollars in government contracts to build all these weapons. So it's not like some ridiculous made-up conspiracy that is based in no facts, and like I'm making it up or people on the left are making it up, and there's no way to prove it. All you have to do is go through these public records. The campaign donations are all on record. These are all public donations. Anybody could go to Open Secrets or any other organization that monitors this stuff, and you can see for yourself all the millions of dollars that are coming from these companies into politicians' pockets. So, and then they turn around and give them these gigantic contracts to keep them in business. So the $25 million that they spent on legalized bribery is just basically cost of business for them. That is like how if you're running a McDonald's and you have to buy napkins so that your store can function properly, or you have to keep buying soda so that your store is functioning the way it's supposed to. That's what these political contributions are. They donate the $25 million. They get the $25 million to the politicians so that they could keep getting the contracts. McDonald's, they spend however much money on soda so that people keep coming back to McDonald's. Because if they didn't have soda and they only had a bunch of salty shit, then people wouldn't want to go to McDonald's all the time, then would they? Because they don't have anything to drink. So it's just a cost of business for Lockheed Martin to spend this money in politics.